Hello everyone, Labs here, and today we're just going to be working with signals with data because I got a comment about 1 day ago saying that you should have covered passing data between signals because it's pretty easy, and I think it's a lot more powerful than just using signals alone. Basically, we're going to be passing in data by clicking these buttons, and of course this doesn't make a lot of sense to anyone watching this, but sooner or later this will make sense, so let's hop straight into it. Over here we have a simple scene with a world and 2 buttons. If we go into script, it's blank, and we're just going to be figuring out how to connect some signals up and make some interesting stuff happen with passing data between signals. Now, what do I mean by passing data between signals? Or essentially what I want to say is, when I click this button, I want it to emit a signal, and then I want that signal that it emitted to carry some value with it. Because maybe, let's say I'm trying to, in fact, I'll give a real life example. Quickly hop over to my actual game that I'm working on. You can see right here in the UI, I have this body carousel, which just shows different power-ups. And over here, if I go over here to my instance scene, you can see I'm using some signals, and I'm doing emit signal, selected version, and I'm doing position to show. Because the way I have the system set up is that it will show a certain, like let's say I want to choose rocket boots for this game. It will show rocket boots, and then it will show the disadvantages and advantages, and then it will show a small picture I made of it. And the really easy way I could set that up is with a connected signal, which has selected version, and it says, a body carousel selected version, which is a signal I emit over here in this script. Selected version, and then I pass down into body selected. I'm passing in an argument. In the previous tutorial, there were no arguments, so we're going to learn how to send arguments with signals, or send signals with arguments rather. So as you can see, blank script. So as you can see, we just have we're just connecting our signals up. So we're just going to be grabbing these 2 buttons, and we're going to be connecting the press signal to our self, which is the world, and we're going to be just making these 2 functions. And as you can see, this is pretty standard stuff from the last tutorial. When I click it, I get hello and hello button press, right? Hello button is the hello one, and text button is the regular yes I got pressed. But let's say I want to emit a signal when any button is pressed, and I want to pass in some extra data. So I'm just going to make my signal up here like something I want, or something you want rather. Because you're the one watching the tutorial. I'm going to connect this something you want signal to myself, which again, I'm connecting this signal of, and remember, you might be wondering why I didn't do hello button, because this signal, something you want, is in this script. It's on this script over here. And I have to connect that signal, which is on myself, to myself, into a something you want function. So I'm just going to go over here and define a quick something you want function. And let's say I want it to accept 2 arguments. So I'm just going to go over here and define 2 arguments. I don't know what they're going to be. Like, I don't know what type of data they're going to be. But let's say I have 2 arguments. I want something function, the something you want function, to accept. How do I do that? So in my text button, on my text button signal, I'm going to say emit signal, or in my text button function, I'm going to say emit signal, something you want. And then you can see it says comma, dot, dot, dot. What's dot, dot, dot? If we just go into the documentation, you can see dot, dot, dot is variable argument. Emits a signal. So if we just read the description, like I'm just using my tutorial as just reading the documentation because I want to show that you didn't need a tutorial. You could have figured it out yourself. You can see that we just have this method supports, this method, by the way, being this emit signal function, or this method, emit signal method, supports a variable number of arguments. So let's break that down. It can support any number of arguments, so any number of pieces of data that we can pass in. As you can see over here, we have emit signal. It will emit the signal hit, and then it will send out these 2 pieces of data, like what weapon type hit me, so you could change the animation, and then how much damage did that enemy get. We can do something similar just by passing in some string, like hello and something else, like I don't know, blah blah blah. And if I go over here to my emit signal, we're passing in argument 1 and 2, and if I run the scene, as you can see, we get that stuff, but it's all jumbled up because we have a space in between them. Because we didn't have a space in between them. As you can see, I passed in ASDF and hello, and that was argument 1. So this was this over here is argument 1. Really, I should put this argument 1, and then over here is argument 2, and we can pass them in. And if you want to do something else, and I really like doing this, but if you want to do an array, you can have a bunch of stuff in. In fact, you can have other arrays, and like you could have a bunch of stuff, and you only have to accept 1 argument, and depending on your stuff, you could do checks and stuff, and I just think it's a lot easier if you do 1 big array of all your stuff. And as you can see, I click it, and now I'm passing in whatever you want. And the reason my tutorials are kind of weird, because I do ASDF and just random gibberish text, because I want to show that that's anything you want. Like, it doesn't have to be something fancy smanchy. It's anything you want. And right now, in this highlighted region of text, whatever you want to pass in, you can pass into that signal. And over here, and the reason you might want to make a signal in your game is because now you can see I can do something you want, and I can pass in another array, and I can pass in a variable. Remember that variable number of arguments? I can just pass in a variable number of strings with another array tossed in, and maybe another number, and just for good luck, 42. And as you can see, this is just accepting one argument. But now when I run the scene, if I click hello button, I get this entire jumble of text. And just a really quick sum up, if you want to pass data through signals, you basically just have to say after this emit signal, comma, anything you want to pass in. It can be an array, it can be like strings, it can be integers, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to pass in, you just put a comma and then a comma and then your data. And then in the function that is getting the signal, or in the function that runs once the signal is emitted, you just put in your parameters, which is in the brackets over here. You just pass in the amount of parameters, and off you go. You started passing in arguments, or you started passing data through signal. And remember, if this entire video was a waste of time, just remember you can control click emit signal. It will take you to the documentation, and over here just look at this example, and this is how you can pass data between signals. That's all I would have to say. Have an amazing day.